Thank you. Thank you. I have items number 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Questions? We have the chiefs here.
I'm just looking for clarification on number 11.
Number 11.
It's the agreement with Ag and Markets.
Oh, sure. That's a New York State Fair thing we've done for about 15 years, where we send out basically the gang task force to walk around the fair and just make things safe. Yep.
All right. That's all I have.
And before you leave, Chief Fowler, I would like you to announce your event that's coming up so that folks will know that it's coming.
Yes, at the end of the year, I will indeed be retiring. Is that what you're referring to? Oh, no. Sorry.
No.
No, not that one.
Not that one.
Okay, all right. Got a little ahead of myself, folks.
Yeah, did.
No, on August the 7th at 5 p.m. out at the parking lot of Destiny USA, we're going to do we're going to be participating in National Night Out. We have multiple police agencies, the fire department, and other entities that's going to come together, and we're inviting families to come out and to participate and enjoy themselves. We chose the site at Destiny USA because we have a paid parking lot and plenty of area to work from. Plus, we will utilize the canyon area of the mall as a rain, in case it decides to rain that day. We're not going to let the weather stop our fun. So, yep, August the 7th, 5 p.m., parking lot of Destiny USA, and I expect to see all of you here. I'm going to have someone take a snapshot of the audience, and so don't try to pretend like you didn't hear me. So I'm going to expect that you're all here and invite others. We've shared a flyer over social media. It's out there. Please grab that, share it with others so that we can have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I also have waiver item 96, which I'll introduce now to also. Any questions? It's on cameras. Okay, Councilor Bay.
Thank you. I have item number 15. That item is withdrawn.
Okay, Councilor Rudd.
I have items 16 through 24. We're going to table 16, and we have to hold 17. And I think I'm going to talk to Christy, and I think we may have an executive, some type of briefing.
Yes, on Monday.
Actually, Council, you have to do that in public. It's not a legal settlement.
Right. Okay.
Right, and I think
so. We may schedule a committee meeting. 17.
But can we have a clarification on the wording? Because
can we have law give us a clarification here on the?
It's a settlement, not a compromise.
Okay.
Right. No, it's a judgment.
Well, it's a settlement of a claim judgment.
Which one are we on? Are we on 18?
Item number 18.
Okay, so 18 is, so we'll talk more about 17. 18 and 19 is, are we gonna?
That's exactly.
So on this one, I do have questions mainly in relation to the bonding. So I'm not sure if
Executive session.
Yeah, the item will be discussed in executive session. The clarification that was requested was that this was a judgment that was ordered by the court and not a settlement. Right. So this was something that we were ordered to pay. It wasn't something that we chose to settle.
Is that why we're financing it?
No, I think it's due to the large amount.
I can't ask about whether we finance it or pay for it with an operating budget.
Usually, when we have claims, I can tell you, but just a general practice is that when we have like the basic claims, they come out of a judgment and claims line through budget, like the operating account. In terms of settlements that are large like this one, we generally do bond, but Mary Vossler should be back on Monday and she can, clarify that. But
do you know what the budget is for the settlements that we have? Isn't it like
it's
$1 million?
It's $1 million, but that's for everything that comes through. So basically, they just have a general $1 million, but that's for everything that comes through, whether it's just a basic claim for a pothole or personal injury. It's not as much as it sounds.
So I'd like some sense of what is coming through, because if it's $1 million in the budget and we're not going to pay 127,000 out of it. It seems like it must.
Again,
be
that's a
others.
budget question, not a law question. I'm not an accountant. I make that statement clearly, but Christy she's not an accountant either, but she can answer
Yes,
us.
Christy Elliott, Director of Administration. I will confirm I'm not an accountant. The one thing I will say, we can get you a list of the settlements that we do on an annual basis. Obviously, that varies significantly. Each year we do disclose to the bonding agencies and in our audit what we assume we think our liabilities are annually, and we do typically bond for those people. Financial institutions are aware that that's what we're planning to do because of the volatile nature of this and the inability to plan effectively for it. Mary could speak better to that, and so I'll defer further questions to her, but just want to clarify that that is a known thing that we do, and it's, I think, the sort of standard practice.
Okay. I would just add, I mean, I'll talk to Mary more about it, but I do think it's reasonable not to bond for 127,000. Like that, in terms of large settlements, we have multi-million-dollar settlements, and then I understand that we don't have the cash flow to do it. But for this small amount, and then it does seem like we should be prioritizing paying. There's no long-term value to this settlement. We aren't going to be receiving value from it next year, but we're still going to be paying for it. So to the extent we have new unexpected money, like if sales tax were higher than we thought, which I guess is the case, then like we should prioritize these kind of like non-sexy payments that just improve our financial conditions to the extent possible. So
Yeah, I appreciate that point. I think it's definitely worth further conversation, and myself and Mary both probably as a part of that.
okay, thank you. Um, 21, Stephanie, would you like to talk about it?
You jumped over 20, which is.
Yeah, what about
20,
20?
20, I think we'll talk about in executive session, right, to get understanding of that one.
Yeah.
So 21.
Item 21, first Dave Delvecchio, Commissioner of Finance. Item 21, the Property Review Committee and representatives are here. Potential Brownsfields, and they did an RFP, and this individual applied with the proposal that's before you to acquire the property, acquire the delinquent liens. So the city will not be entitled to these, and if you have any questions, and Eric.
So I met with Stephanie Pascal yesterday, and she has the whole kind of
Hi, Nora Spilling, Deputy Commissioner, NBD. I couldn't hear what you said as I was coming up.
We were just talking about 21. Councilor Bay is just seeking to understand.
Clarification on 21.
Sure. So as we did with the last and our first brownfield lien sale, essentially we allowed and Michael Grupka is here. This is our potential property owner. They step into the shoes of the city, foreclose on the property without the city taking title and getting into possible chain of liability with a suspected brownfield. The RFP and the whole process, we vet the plan with an internal city review. The Property Sales Committee meets, reviews, and then makes a recommendation for your consideration. Michael is planning to open up a business at the site, operate it as a car wash, and put it back onto the tax rolls. That's what we like to hear.
That's the old car wash, right?
Correct. Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it.
And Michael's a city resident who seems to be doing well by the city, so I wish you the best of luck on the project.
And you didn't be putting more employees in the city too.
That works.
22.
22 is us giving the money that we allocated in the budget to the downtown committee. Similarly, 23. Any questions on 22 or 23? 24, getting. So on these non-competitive bids, can we have a list of, over the course of the year, how many times we waive competitive bidding, so we track and know that over the course of the year we have given.
Department of Finance does not track that.
Can we track?
We have a couple in finance, and this is the first time I came here for Image Integrator. The company's been doing business with the city for years, and they're located in the city. If we obtain through the purchase process, the vendor through the county is outside the city. So our goal is to maintain consistency because the vendor is familiar with the city. The dollar amount would be the same, $6,000, whether it's this vendor or the county vendor. And then it's a city vendor. I know that's come up before. with Councilor Carney.
And Dave, I appreciate everything you're saying, right? And I'm gonna say the same thing that I said before. Just because we've been doing things this way, doesn't mean we're gonna continue to do things this way. And I understand about, you know, the county and being outside of the city, but we may pick up somebody from within the city structure. We don't know because we're not bidding it out. So I'm a big proponent that just because that doesn't fly anymore.
Well, I'd just like to add, we would not issue a bid for this. We would just get a purchase order. So it will not be an RFP. Wouldn't go through the RFP committee, no process like that. Because this is a commodity that could be purchased through a bid through the county. And that's the option we would have, either this option, which is the waiver, or the purchase through the county.
Maybe a question for the clerk, but how could we track how often we
The purchasing
waive?
department has to authorize all waivers of competitive bids, so when Mary Vossa comes back, she can get to a list.
Okay. Thank you.
And the county's already bid this,
Yes.
and it's already at the same price that we're paying.
Well, we would pay no more than $6,000
Right.
to either vendor.
So the
Yes.
cost is gonna be the same whether we bid it or
Right,
not.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to handle Councilor Carney's for the parks. He has items 25 through 34.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yep, Commissioner Julie Lefebvre, Parks and Recreation. Number 25 is in coordination with the City Clerk's Office for an agreement to enter with DocuPet for its dog licensing services that will also serve the needs of our dog control department. We do have representatives here for any questions.
Grant Goodwin is the CEO. He's here if you have any questions about the program.
Made the ride down from Kingston again. Thank you very much. We're supposed to thank Dave Benquist for this. Thank you, Dave, for bringing this to our attention. I think that's ready. You gave the presentation yesterday.
Okay. Number 26 is for an agreement with New York State Department of Parks and Recreation on behalf of Eastwood Neighborhood Association for a grant that they will be receiving for a project to be installed at Eastwood Heights Park. If there are any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, do you know the exactly what's covered in the 5? Like I've heard fencing, correct?
It is. So there's a community garden right now in the park, and they have priced it out, and it should cover the amount, but it's to fence in and I think work on the shed as well. So it should cover all of the costs.
Great.
Number 27, I have given a revision to the clerk, but the amount is $335. We accepted more donations. This is donations that were given in memory of a senior at one of our senior centers.
Okay.
Number 28 is also a donation to our senior center. This is for $85.
Okay.
To be used at the senior center. Number 29 is an amendment to a previous ordinance. Research worked to get approval to reallocate some of those funds for different projects, which are Skiddy Park, Sunnycrest Track, McKinley Park is still included, renovation of Burnett Park Pool, and then as well reallocate funds for the Onondaga Park Pavilion.
Yep.
For the wall.
I'm sorry, for the wall.
Correct. Okay.
Pavilion.
Do you have a question?
Or it says wall too.
Yep.
Oh, I see.
30?
Wait, can I just ask? So we
absolutely.
were just looking for clarity on that 29. So it's moving from the other projects to the Onondaga Lake Wall one, correct?
It was originally for 5 park projects, and now it's been changed to 3. And we had to request permission from DASNY for that, and they did approve the changes.
Oh, okay. And so what are the 3 that are going ahead now?
McKinley Park, Skiddy Park, and the Wall.
Okay.
Janet's here, sorry. We've been working, there's been a lot of changes, so I'm going to bring Janet up from research.
Because I want to ask the question though. You said Skiddy. Is it going to be for the what's the field house? Is that what is the Skiddy Park?
Yeah, this was the Skiddy Park Field House. Yeah, that had already been paid for, and so it was determined that they would, instead of taking the money from the grant, they would move it to another project where it could be used.
Okay, so you're taking it from the Skitty Park.
Well, it was, but the park's already been done. It was to pay for the renovation that had been done a couple of years ago.
Okay, for the house that nobody goes into.
I'm sorry?
For the field house nobody uses.
Okay, well.
They don't go in there.
So this is to pay retroactively for?
Right, the DASNY grants take quite a long time to process, and the Skitty Park was done on an emergent basis, so we were given the money through a DASNY grant, but the work was being done at the time, so it took so long to get the money that we've decided to rework it to another project.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. 30.
30 is for urban forestry grant, or sorry, funds, and that is essentially for tree pits and expanding them.
Right. 31.
31 is for a tree replacement project, which Steve Harris would work on to replace any trees that have come down throughout the city.
32 and 33 are pretty clear. 4.
Julie, could you, what's the difference between Earth Corps that's planting the trees and the urban forestry?
So Steve Harris can answer that question.
Hello, could you repeat the question, please?
What's the difference between Earth Corps that's out planting trees and urban forestry?
The Onondaga Earth Corps is being paid to plant trees through Onondaga County's Save the Rain program. And the urban forestry line number 30, is that what you're asking about? Mm-hmm. That is money that we use for a variety of things, including purchase of trees and planting of trees, but mostly for miscellaneous projects like dealing with tree pits and getting problematic stumps out of tree pits, or to match grants. It's more of a catch-all.
Okay. Does the Relief Syracuse thing, how does that relate to us and what we do, or is that?
Relief Syracuse is a name we brought back from the past after the Labor Day storm, and it's simply the name that we're using to name our urban forest master planning process, which is, the public meetings we're doing, and the plan we'll come up with and probably bring to you before council a year from now or something like that. And hopefully you'll attend one of those meetings.
There's one tonight, 5:30, right?
Is that it?
The first one is tonight at 5:30.
First one's tonight at 5:30. Thank you, Tim, for that plug.
And do we, are these two, 30 and 31, are they allocated to any particular areas, or is it just general citywide where you're seeing problems?
That's request-based. We get, between the service requests we get from property owners and the requests that we get through other capital projects, such as what, for example, Valley Turnpike, the redo of Turnpike, we planted a lot of trees using the number item 31 for that project. Or for the Creek Walk, after we put that in, we use it for those kind of projects, in addition to service requests. And it meets about 40% of our annual request. Yep.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Items 32 and 33 are self-explanatory. Item 34.
Can I just go back to 33? One of them was yesterday and it was canceled out, so that if I can submit a revision to cancel out the second $700 amount.
Could you just give me a new letter?
Yes. And 34 covers our annual music licensing, which is required to host any music in any park or any facility.
Any questions on any of those? Thank you. Okay, Councilor Ryan, or I'm sorry, Councilor Green will be handling Councilor Ryan's.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. I have start with items 35 and 36 and 37, all of which will be held. Item 38, we had a committee hearing on yesterday. Part of it requires executive session, so until that time we will be holding that item. Next up, item 39. Does anyone have any questions on number 39? Okay. Items 40 and 41, New York State DOT multimodal project.
Good afternoon. I'm Lori Ayako from DPW, the fiscal officer, and I can answer 40 and 41. It's the MM4 for Onondaga Ave, multimodal, that Pam Hunter received for us. So we need an agreement with New York State DOT.
And so that runs from Onondaga and it crosses over Sterling all the way down to Centennial?
Yes.
So what's the other mode, I guess, that makes this qualify?
Pardon me?
Isn't, because it has to have, you know, connect different modes of transportation, correct, for it to qualify?
I would think so.
Okay. Do we know, I mean, is it pedestrian? Is that what the connection is?
I'm not sure. I can ask and get back to you.
Okay.
And because it's DOT, do we get any Marcia Shelley funds with that? Do you know?
No, this is multimodal. It's automatically paid through them,
Okay.
through the grant.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
What? Yeah, I would. I'm sorry, I didn't get time to read the whole back of it. What exactly is being done? Just
A full restoration, mill and pave and curbing.
won't pay for all that area.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Just back to item number 38. When's the executive session going to take place?
Monday.
Monday?
Okay. Item number 42. Can we have someone come up and explain this, Eric? Or someone?
Neil Burke, Transportation Planner, Department of Public Works. Item number 42 is an agreement with Gotcha Bike to run the City of Syracuse bike share program. This company will be designing and operating a publicly accessible amenity across the city at no cost to the city. This vendor was selected through a lengthy process that incorporated several members of the council here, which revolved around interviews, fleshing out details, specifics regarding different vendors and their capabilities, their pricing options, and their data offerings as well as it relates to a citywide bike sharing program.
So the reason it's here in our books and other than just a regular business coming to town to rent bikes to people, is because we're allowing them the right of way?
Yes, so they'll be operating in the right of way, and they will be charging for the service, so that's why it's in front of you.
But there's no liability to the city or ownership of anything. It's just sort of a business doing business on our right of way.
Correct, and they will have all the associated insurance and permits required.
But another company could come in and still do this same thing, correct?
So this started through an RFQ that the city put out for vendors to respond to, and we selected one as a result of that. If another company were interested in this, they would have to follow that same process if we opened it up further down the line.
But the RFP is just for basically the use of the right of way and sort of the business partnership with the city, our promotion of it or whatnot like that?
Right.
With no liability, okay.
So an exclusive agreement, like can we, if every time we want to do bike share, we go to them? If we want to expand it or do anything, is that how?
So the details haven't been, the details will be in the contract, but originally it was stated that it would not be, the company would not be granted an exclusivity agreement in case the city was interested in introducing some competition further down the line. But they wouldn't, any additional potential vendor would have to follow this same sort of process to come in. They couldn't just roll up and, deploy their operations in the right of way.
So will they be paying the city anything for this? Is this
So there will be a revenue sharing agreement, and the specifics of that are in contract negotiations, but it was something that we were very interested in as a committee, and that was part of the reason we selected Gotcha Bike as the vendor.
And not to mention, I think for Joe and myself, and I can only speak for us, we were there, that is gonna give opportunity to folks, the disabled community, they're gonna bring in the three-wheelers, and it's gonna give folks that necessarily can't go out and purchase a bike, opportunity to rent these bikes at a very low minimal cost. So that was the plus for me.
Oh, I think it's great.
Additionally, to build on those points, the company will be working with the unbanked community as well and have a very favorable rate structure, which is just another reason why we picked this vendor.
So there's obviously going to be a process where you guys determine where the dock should be located. And I know in here you've talked about kind of a community outreach, but can you just talk about that a little more, what your plan is of how you plan to go out to the community and kind of get feedback on where they should be?
Sure. So the city, throughout this process, has been working with the local nonprofit Adapt CNY and taking advantage of their networks to gain that community feedback. There is a website set up which has been sort of the soft opening for the feedback portion of this, which is ongoing now. We've received about 75 survey responses to this point, and we will be continuing the outreach because it's very important that the system meets the needs of the constituents first and isn't just what the company wants to roll out.
Yeah, so I guess to that point, when you're ready, let us know from a social media standpoint that we can all help get feedback on. That'd be helpful.
Great.
And when do you guys expect this to roll out for the public to use?
So the company has stated that they will need around a month, maybe a little bit more, to determine all of their operational issues. We are still looking at a late summer to early fall rollout. However, that is flexible.
Okay. And this is a year-round program?
Yes, it's intended to be year-round.
Okay.
They have snow tires.
Do they?
I don't know.
They got those big fat bikes.
They're gonna have to.
Yeah, if I could just say one thing that we factored in our decision making was that they had already rolled out a program in Burlington, Vermont, which has similar weather conditions to us. So doing a year-round program, we wanted a company who could adapt to the snow and the amount of weather we have here. And Gotcha was the only one who met that criteria as well, really, with experience in snowy environments.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks a lot. It's exciting.
Thanks.
All right, items 43 and 44. Is there anyone from, yeah.
Good afternoon, councillors. Item number 43 is actually a DPW project, but it's a grant application for TAP funding for bike trails. It's just a grant application for TAP funding.
44?
How does Butternut, Lodi connect to the connective corridor?
I'm going to ask DPW to come up. It's their project.
Neil Burke, Transportation Planner, DPW. So the question was, how does
Butternut connect to the connective corridor?
So Butternut would be the one ending point. This project would travel down Lodi Street.
Lodi Street. I'm sorry, I keep saying Butternut, but I mean Lodi.
It would start at Butternut, travel down Lodi Street. It would need to cross the boulevard and meet up with the connective corridor at Genesee and University.
It's the north connector.
North to downtown.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillors, items 44, 45, and 46 are for bonding, authorization, and agreement respectively for the South Salina State Street Mill and Pave project. We're adding $720,000 of additional funds for detailed design. And we have received Marchicelli for both phases.
And I think this question was asked last time. When would these be done?
Construction is funded for the years 1920, so most likely we'll bid it late 2019 with construction in 2020.
Thank you.
Do you know what the percentage of Marchicelli is?
15%.
Okay. Thank you.
Item 47 is to accept 41 parcels from Onondaga County for the construction of the creek walk. parcels are adjacent to predominantly Martin Luther King West. Item 48 then is to authorize an easement over those parcels for the county to maintain their sewer infrastructure below.
Any questions on those?
While we're kind of near bikes and the creeks and stuff, is there anybody in the crowd who knows the timing of the Erie Boulevard bike trail project? I don't know. Never mind. It's fine. Is there anybody who knows the timing of the Erie Boulevard bike trail, the state project to connect through the city? It seems like it connects to the creek. It has to do with bikes. That's why I'm asking.
That's it.
Maybe I'll just stay up here. So it's planned for 19 and 20, and it looks like it will be split due to the nature of Erie Boulevard. You have two different portions, one that's very urban and one that's very suburban commercial.
So maybe a year from now?
A year from now would be...
beginning?
Yes, it would be, that's the anticipated start, and in our discussions with New York State DOT, it looks like they're on schedule for that.
Okay. And the locations for the bike share would probably take into consideration this development, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, before you leave though, while I still have you, being you're the planner for DPW,
yes.
Are you planning on looking at that Geddes Street area, going from Geddes to Fed under that area, headed to 690?
Yes, so the Geddes Street corridor is being looked at by the Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Council on behalf of the city. Number of the signals there are issues with, they're looking at that. We are working to basically develop a plan that meets everyone's needs and works well.
Okay, because that bike path going straight across 690 meets no one's needs. Okay.
Noted.
Further up, we also have a real issue with school crossing street.
Right, and that's part of the portion that prompted us to look at the corridor in the first place.
Okay, thank you. 49.
They're all agreements.
Items 49 through 56 are school district items. I'm Tom Ferrara, the Director of Facilities for the City School District. We have general service agreements just like city departments do, and ours last round expired in January. So this is a new RFP that was sent out at the end of last year. The committee got together earlier this year, and now we're bringing them to you for approval. Councilor Boyle and President Hudson, I think, were on the committee with Chief DeSantis from the school district and Kelly Haggerty from engineering. So that's what these items are for. We use these for our non-JSCB projects. So example project would be, we had the Lincoln Chiller we replaced this summer. So we use this to hire the engineer or the architect for a project. We also did the gym partition at Lincoln. There's no guarantee on these contracts, so even though those dollar amounts, nobody's been selected for any projects, but as we go forward, we use these contracts to hire architects and engineers for our capital projects.
And just a quick question for you. I should have asked this earlier. So when you're looking at the architects and the engineers, are you pulling from the WBE and WBE list?
Correct. And so the committee considered that during the evaluations. There was 14 firms on there. There are 2 firms that are city certified, M and W. They both have awards on there. And there's 1 firm that's working on a state certification. They're not city certified, but they're working on a state, and that's also one of the 8 firms that's was selected by the committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 57.
Through 61.
Through 61.
Councilors, so items 57, 58, and 59 are for bonding agreement and authorization respectively for the construction phase of the Creek Walk Phase 2. It's adding another $8,813,000 to the costs. Questions?
Okay.
How many more phases are there for the Creek Walk?
Pardon?
How many more phases for the Creek Walk?
The next phase, we don't have any funds for it, but the next phase would be to extend it further south.
And
down
would
to
that be
city
the end
limits.
of the creek walk? Would that be it?
Yes, Councillor.
Put a lot of money in the creek walk.
Okay, item number 60 is to amend our agreement with CNS Engineers to provide construction inspection services for the construction of the creek walk. Item number 61 is a grant application for TAP funding to make repairs to the creek walk maintenance bridge and sections of the existing creek walk. And
Which bridge?
it's Creek Walk Maintenance Bridge. It's just north of Plum Street Bridge in Franklin Square. It's where the creek walk crosses over the creek.
Yeah. Is that the one that has all the concrete coming off the edges onto the creek walk?
No, that is not correct. It's a further south. It's past Plum Street, or further north past Plum Street.
Okay.
The bridge you're talking about is Evans Street Bridge, and that currently is being awarded for repairs.
Okay. Thank you.
Item number 62 is another grant application for TAP funding for a Safe Routes to School project along Glenwood Avenue and South Geddes Street from Stoke to South Ave.
Can you explain a little bit about what the work will be for 62?
For item number 62, I mean, we look at ADA corners, crosswalks, striping, and appropriate signage.
I don't want to keep asking questions, but I gotta ask this. Wasn't that part of that, the Elmwood project, the Elmwood area? Wasn't this Safe Routes part of that? When they talked about doing the whole little Elmwood corridor?
I think that's an ongoing thing, the Safe Routes to School, isn't it? It's like an ongoing.
Well, I understood that we had money set for this area, and there was a plan that was related to that a previous staff member had developed that left, and then the plan kind of dropped, and then the plan, it looked like, I think there was a point where I sat with Jeremy and we saw the map, and the map was to put all the improvements on Hillview, which isn't really the main corridor there, so that was kind of weird, so I think people were trying to move it toward Glenwood,
Correct. We
where the
looked at the
traffic
scope of the
actually is.
project. We had already changed it once because it talked about mini roundabouts. And basically, after we talked with councilors, DPW, we just felt that that previous project scope is not appropriate. Actually, it wasn't focusing on where the kids actually walk.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
63.
Good afternoon, councilors. Item number 63 is to amend an ordinance to increase the amount to request from the Department of Health for the fluoride replacement program.
Questions?
Okay, Councilor Boyle.
Thank you. I have items 64 and 65, and I'm going to call those, well, you can explain them if you want, but thank you.
Sure. Councilors, every 2 years, we are required to reestablish the standard workday. And so what both pieces of legislation do is separate elected officials and appointed. Basically, all non-union employees are covered under this legislation. This is for retirement purposes.
Yeah. I guess I'm trying to understand, because the council already does this, so why are we passing?
Well, every 2 years, you're required to do this.
I understand we do it every 2 years.
Right, this is confirming that you do it. I have to
Right.
confirm through legislation that you did what you did, that you turned in the logs.
Right.
Any other questions on this? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Allen.
Thank you. I have items 66 through 95. 66, we will host a committee meeting tomorrow at 5:30, and I encourage everyone to attend. And I have 67 and 68, Ken?
Good afternoon, councilors. Ken Towsley, Director of Codes. Items 67 and 68 are to extend contracts for 1 month for our 2 sprinkler inspectors. This is to get us through the construction season up at the university. Going forward, starting September 1st, sprinkler inspections and review will be performed by the Central Permit Office and the Syracuse Fire Department.
Okay. All right, and thank you. 69.
Good afternoon, councilors. Sam Edelstein from the I-Team. This is an application to apply for Phase 2 with the city's RISE grant program through Enterprise Community Partners, which is part of the Attorney General's office. We were admitted into the first phase. This is for the second phase. It includes $50,000 for staff time and additional technical assistance.
Can you kind of give a overview of what you've guys done so far with Phase 1?
Absolutely. So Phase 1 was about essentially compiling data from a bunch of different software systems so that we could get a better sense about housing generally throughout the city. So that instead of looking in a bunch of different places, we could look in one and filter it in really interesting ways, mostly to help the codes department look at where things, where should they go and look to enforce proactively. And so that was Phase 1. Phase 2 is really more about implementation of those plans, so that we're looking at the information and then taking it to do things differently or more effectively.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
And 70 and 71. 70 is for a public hearing on September 10th. So we'll go ahead and we'll hold 71 for the actual public hearing. But did you want to mention anything about it?
Yes. Good afternoon, councilors. Heather Lamandola, zoning administrator. Item 71 is connected to the public hearing. This was a petition for an abandonment by the Anglers Association, and this is already a tax parcel, but it will be eventually joined with the Anglers Association property to enhance and expand the public use of Webster's Pond.
Okay. Thank you. And then I believe you have, well, you'll be back, Heather, for the other ones, but 72? Okay.
Yeah, actually, I just want to make sure to point out that there's a correction in the description of where the right-of-way, which right-of-way. Basically, we're going to come out of the side of the building, so the steel stairs are going to come out onto the South Geddes Street right-of-way, not the West Fayette Street right-of-way, which is in West Fayette Street right-of-way is in front of the building. We're coming out of the side of the building, between the building and the underpass wall on South Geddes Street.
Okay. And this is the brick building
On the corner of West, yep.
Okay.
Brick building on the corner of West Fayette and South Geddes, right next to Light Park.
Okay. So you guys were just changing the physical location of the staircase.
People from the second floor were going to exit across what's going to be a recessed front porch, but that makes it have to be a fire-rated corridor, which significantly increases the price of storefronts and other things. So instead of doing that, where people come down the stairs from the second floor, we're just going to punch a hole through the, we're going to punch a new door through the side of the building there so they can exit safely there.
Rich, I think that we should have the city official come up and explain that. Thank you, though. Thank you. Yeah. Because you're all set, so.
I just want to ask you a question. Did you write this letter for the DPW?
I did.
You?
Yes.
Okay, you're going to need to correct it because it doesn't reflect what he said.
It doesn't? Okay, I will make those corrections. Good afternoon. My name is Yolanda Johnson. I'm taking over for Sam White. I am the Construction Development Coordinator. And this is a request from Home Headquarters. They're requesting permission for a minor encroachment for a steel staircase, which would encroach 3 feet 10 inches into the West Fayette Street right-of-way.
Right, and just so that the other counselors know, that is the right-of-way that it goes up along to the railroad tracks. It's not on the road, it's not on the sidewalk, it's a walkway that's, yes, it's on the far side of the bridge, so.
Okay.
But when you do that, what's going in there?
There's a restaurant going in there.
Yes.
So is it gonna be a paved parking for them? Because when you're coming
No,
this
isn't near that side. This is on the other side near the bridge that you were speaking about where the traffic goes through. So
yeah, the area that the stairs are going to be going in, there's a wall, a kind of retaining wall that blocks off the sidewalk, and so this is just a very dead area of overgrown grass that's on the side of the building. What's that?
No, it's on the opposite side.
No, it's right. It's kitty corner to the gear factory.
I know where the building is, but I'm looking at Fayette Street coming across and where the stairs are going to go. So it's going to go on the other side of Fayette.
Yeah, it won't, it's, so the building's right here, there's a retaining wall there, and it's between the building and the retaining wall. So it has no exposure to the street at all. Does that make sense? Did I explain it well?
Good job, Joe Driscoll.
I'll look tonight.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, 73 and 74.
Good afternoon again. The special permit number 73 is for a restaurant at 1551 and 1555 South Salina Street. This is Syracuse Meadow Neighborhoods is opening a cafe, and there is also an associated re-subdivision to combine the two properties.
Okay. Thank you. 74.
74, this is a special permit modification to property on James Street, and the commission needed to grant waivers for signage because the James Street overlay has very specific restrictions with respect to signage. So this is for a new business that's going on the actually in the basement, but the signage is on the backside by the parking lot.
Which building is it, Heather? The Old Steak and Sunday?
Yes. Okay. Does it have in here the name of the restaurant? 74. Hold on.
Need it bigger for its old people.
Thank you for the font increase. That was very kind of you.
So this one, Heather, I still have a question about 74. So this is now, it was a restaurant, but it's now a retail store and a barber shop together?
Yes, so when we look at special permits, we look at the whole property. When a special permit encumbers the entire property. So these are different retail shops that are going in there, but the signage restrictions for James Street overlay are different than other parts of the city. So you're allowed certain signage, but it's a smaller capacity, and this is one on the back side, which you're not allowed to have signage, and it was too big. So
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear. Okay. All right, so now items 75 through 95.
Afternoon, councilors. Callie Kaku with the Department of Neighborhood and Business Development. In front of you, you have a list with 21 properties, 2 of them carried over from the previous session, and the remaining 19 are all vacant lots that are variously proposed tax foreclosures and some city-owned properties. The majority of them we're proposing for future development. They're adjacent to land bank properties currently, or a buyer has been identified, and they're seeking the property for acquisition.
You had held 74 and 75. Are you moving on?
I have a question about number 76. I held it previously. I haven't been able to make any contact or reach anyone. I'm just wondering, I see the water bill is really high, you know, which is always a sign, but the tax bill is still pretty low. And is that 6,000 consecutive years of tax debt, or is it not?
When I looked at it this morning, it appeared to be from 2014 and from 2017.
So
We can-
2015 and 16 would paid?
I'm gonna
That's why.
I'm gonna hold that. I might withdraw that next week, though.
If we can be helpful with contact information or anything, please let us know.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold it for now.
Which one is this, 76?
118
Yeah,
Clive.
76 is held.
And the question for 75, the last one that we had, have you been able to make any other contact with them?
No further follow-up. We have sent additional letters and haven't had any contact, and it is still just that 2014 bill.
Okay, that'll be held too, so we can make contact with
Which
them.
number?
75.
75.
That's,
Okay. And Councilman, 77, or to 232?
Yeah, I believe it's Kate.
Is Caitlin still here? Oh, here she is. Did you want to hold it?
No, I think she had talked about whatever she was planning.
Hi. 77, 232 Colvin Street. Are you going to hold that one?
I think we can go ahead and proceed with taking it. So we met yesterday with Councilors Allen and Bay and talked about some of these vacant lots and what our plan is. And you gave me a lot of good feedback on what we should do with these properties, but I don't think that that necessarily would be any reason to stop the foreclosure or the transfer.
Okay.
I just would add, the next door neighbor actually has reached out directly to us and is seeking the property. So if there's any feedback that you have for her, we can be in touch again. She's sought both to purchase the property from the city, and we're trying to facilitate that by getting it through the land bank.
What property are we referring to?
For 77 for 232 West Colvin Street.
Well, yeah, we talked about that. Yeah. So I'm not.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Is it?
Which one? There, it's ready. 77 is ready. All right, thank you.
Okay, that concludes the study session for the day. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.